He arrives home early unexpectedly and walks into a nightmare. His fiancée throwing hot soup at his mother and daughter. What he did next? Even the police said they had never seen a response that fast. Or that cold. If you love gripping stories like this, please like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It helps the channel grow and brings more stories your way. Now, let's begin. Collins Ellington had built his empire from nothing. At 42, he was the CEO of Ellington Technologies, a company worth over $3 billion. But all the money in the world couldn't fill the void left by his late wife, Sarah, who had died in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving him with their 7-year-old daughter, Emma. For 2 years, Collins had focused solely on work and raising Emma, with the help of his elderly mother, Margaret, who had moved in after Sarah's death. Then he met Naomi Sterling at a charity gala. She was stunning, articulate, and seemed genuinely interested in both him and Emma. After a whirlwind romance of 8 months, Collins proposed. Naomi said yes, and she moved into the Ellington mansion 2 months ago. Collins noticed small changes. Emma had become quieter, more withdrawn. His mother, usually vibrant despite her 70 years, seemed tired and anxious. But Naomi always had explanations. Emma's just adjusting to having a new mother figure, she'd say with a sympathetic smile. And your mother is getting older, darling. It's natural. Collins wanted to believe her. He was busy with the upcoming merger that would expand Ellington Technologies into the European market. The deal required his constant attention, including a planned 2-week trip to London. But something nagged at him, a father's instinct that something wasn't right. 3 days into his London trip, Collins sat in his hotel suite reviewing contracts when his phone buzzed. It was a message from Mrs. Rodriguez, the housekeeper who had been with the family for 15 years. The message was brief. "Mr. Ellington, I think you should come home, please." Collins called her immediately. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what's wrong? Is Emma okay?" "My mother?" There was a long pause. "They're physically fine, sir, but I can't say more on the phone. Miss Sterling doesn't know I'm calling you. Please, just come home." Collins felt his blood run cold. Mrs. Rodriguez was not a woman given to dramatics. If she was reaching out like this, something was seriously wrong. "I'm catching the next flight out," he said. He called his assistant to arrange everything, citing a family emergency. Within 3 hours, Collins was on his private jet heading back to New York. The 8-hour flight felt like an eternity. He tried calling home several times, but Naomi's cheerful voice only heightened his anxiety. "Everything's wonderful here, darling. Emma and your mother are both fine. Are you sure you need to cut your trip short?" Collins landed at 2 p.m. on a Thursday. He didn't call ahead. He wanted to see for himself what was happening in his home. The mansion was in the Hamptons, a sprawling estate with manicured gardens and a view of the ocean. It had been Sarah's dream home, and Collins had kept everything exactly as she designed it, a shrine to the love they'd shared. He drove himself from the airport, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. When he pulled up to the mansion, everything looked normal. The gardens were pristine, the fountain bubbling peacefully. He used his key to enter quietly through the front door. The house was silent except for voices coming from the kitchen. Collins moved quietly down the marble hallway, his expensive Italian shoes making no sound. As he approached, he heard Naomi's voice, sharp and cruel in a way he'd never heard before. "I told you to scrub those floors until they shine, you useless old woman. Do you think you can just sit there while I do all the work?" Collins froze. That couldn't be Naomi, not his charming, sophisticated fiancée. "I'm sorry," came his mother's trembling voice. "My knees, they hurt so much. I just needed a moment to rest." "Rest? You've done nothing but rest your entire pathetic life. No wonder your son had to make all the money while you contributed nothing." Collins's jaw clenched. He moved closer to the kitchen entrance, staying just out of sight. "And you." Naomi's voice rose. "Stop crying, you little brat. Your mother was weak, and you're just like her. Pathetic and useless. Please." Emma's small voice was barely audible. "I miss my mommy. I want my daddy to come home. Your daddy doesn't care about you anymore. He has me now, and once we're married, I'm sending you and that old hag to the cheapest nursing facility I can find. You're both just drains on his resources." Collins felt rage building in his chest, but he forced himself to remain calm. He needed to see everything, to understand the full extent of what had been happening in his absence. He peered around the corner carefully. The sight that met his eyes made his blood boil. His mother was on her hands and knees on the kitchen floor, a scrub brush in her arthritic hands. Her clothes were soaked, and there were red marks on her arms that looked like burns. Emma sat huddled in the corner, her face tear-stained, her little body shaking with silent sobs. She was wearing clothes that were too thin for the air-conditioned house, and her lips had a slightly blue tinge. Naomi stood over them both, immaculate in designer clothes, holding a large pot. Steam rose from it, and Collins realized with horror that it was the soup Mrs. Rodriguez usually made for dinner. "You know what?" Naomi said, her voice dripping with malice. "I'm tired of looking at your miserable faces. Maybe this will teach you to be more grateful for my presence." She raised the pot, and Collins watched in disbelief as she tilted it, preparing to pour the scalding soup over his mother and daughter. "Stop." Collins's voice rang through the kitchen like a gunshot. Naomi whirled around, the pot still in her hands, her face going from cruel satisfaction to shock in an instant. "Collins, you're home early." She quickly rearranged her features into a smile, but her eyes were calculating. "What a wonderful surprise. I was just about to pour boiling soup on my mother and daughter." Collins's voice was cold, deadly calm. He walked into the kitchen, his eyes never leaving Naomi's face. "No, you don't understand. I understand perfectly." Collins moved past her to Emma, scooping his daughter into his arms. She burst into fresh sobs, clinging to him desperately. He helped his mother to her feet with his free arm, his heart breaking at how she trembled. "Collins, please, let me explain." Naomi set the pot down, her voice taking on a pleading tone. "They've been so difficult lately. I've been trying to maintain order in the house while you're away. You have no idea how challenging." "How long?" Collins asked quietly, still holding Emma. "How long have you been abusing my family?" "Abusing? That's a strong word. I've merely been disciplining." "How long?" His voice thundered through the kitchen. Margaret spoke up, her voice shaking but determined. "Since the first week she moved in. When you're here, she's different. But when you leave." She couldn't finish. Collins looked at the burns on his mother's arms, the fear in Emma's eyes, the wet patches on the floor that he now realized weren't just water but tears mixed with cleaning solution. He thought of all the times Emma had been quieter, all the times his mother had seemed anxious. The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. "Mrs. Rodriguez," he called out. The housekeeper appeared immediately from the hallway. She'd been waiting, Collins realized. "Yes, Mr. Ellington? How much have you witnessed?" Mrs. Rodriguez's eyes filled with tears. "Everything, sir. I tried to protect them, but Miss Sterling threatened to have me fired if I said anything. She said you'd believe her over me. I finally couldn't stay silent anymore. I'm so sorry I didn't. You did the right thing calling me. Thank you." Collins turned back to Naomi, who was now looking genuinely frightened. "Pack your things. You have 30 minutes to leave my house. You can't throw me out. We're engaged. This is my home too. This is my home. You are a guest who has overstayed her welcome by about 2 months." Collins pulled out his phone. "I'm calling my lawyer and the police." "The police?" Naomi's face went pale. "For what?" "For elder abuse, child abuse, and assault. Those burns on my mother's arms aren't from cooking accidents, are they?" Margaret shook her head. She would accidentally splash hot water on me when I didn't clean fast enough." "And Emma?" Collins looked at his daughter, who was still clinging to him. "She made me stand outside in the cold," Emma whispered. "And she wouldn't let me eat dinner sometimes. She said I was too fat and lazy like Mommy was." Collins felt something break inside him. "Mrs. Rodriguez, please call Dr. Mitchell. I want both my mother and Emma examined and their injuries documented. Then call my attorney, James Walsh, and tell him I need him here within the hour. And yes, call the police." "You're overreacting." Naomi tried one more time. "I'll admit I was harsh, but abuse? Come on, Collins. Think about what this will do to your reputation. A scandal like this will show the world exactly who you are. Collins finished. I don't care about the scandal. I care about the fact that you tortured my family while pretending to love me. I do love you. The money, the lifestyle, everything we could have. There it is. Collins's voice was bitter. It was never about me, was it? It was about my wealth. Naomi seemed to realize she'd made a mistake. She tried to approach him, but he stepped back, still holding Emma. Collins, please, we can work this out. I'll get help, therapy, whatever you want. Just don't throw away what we have. We have nothing. We never did. Collins looked at her with absolute contempt. You're a monster who abused a child and an elderly woman. You're going to face the consequences. Within minutes, Dr. Mitchell arrived, followed shortly by Collins' attorney and 2 police officers. As the doctor examined Margaret and Emma, documenting burns, bruises, and signs of malnutrition, in Emma's case, Collins gave his statement to the police. Mrs. Rodriguez corroborated everything, and she revealed she'd been secretly documenting the abuse for the past month, taking photos and keeping a detailed diary. I was gathering evidence, she explained to Collins. I knew if I just told you, she might talk her way out of it. I needed proof. The police arrested Naomi Sterling on charges of child abuse, elder abuse, and assault. As they led her out in handcuffs, she screamed at Collins, her beautiful face twisted with rage. You'll regret this. Do you know who my family is? We'll destroy you. Try it, Collins said coldly. I'll bury you in legal fees before you can even get a lawyer to take your case seriously. After she was gone, Collins sat with Emma and his mother in the living room. Dr. Mitchell had treated their injuries and prescribed medication for Margaret's burns. Emma hadn't left Collins' side. I'm so sorry, Collins whispered, holding them both. I should have known. I should have seen it. She was very clever, Margaret said softly. She only showed her true face when you were gone. And she threatened us. She said if we told you, she'd make sure you sent us away to separate homes where we'd never see each other again. Emma nodded against his chest. She said you loved her more than us now, that we were just reminders of Mommy, and you wanted to forget Mommy. Collins felt tears streaming down his face. Never. I could never forget your mother, and I could never love anyone more than I love you too. You are my whole world. I failed to protect you, and I will never forgive myself for that. You're here now, Margaret said, taking his hand. That's what matters. Over the next few weeks, Naomi Sterling was formally charged with multiple counts of abuse. The evidence was overwhelming. Mrs. Rodriguez's documentation, the medical reports, and testimony from other staff members who had witnessed Naomi's cruelty but had been too afraid to speak up. Collins threw all his resources into ensuring justice was served. He hired the best prosecutors, and Naomi's family's attempts to intimidate or buy their way out of the situation failed against the wall of evidence and Collins's determination. The trial made headlines. Billionaire's fiancé arrested for abusing his family. But Collins didn't care about the publicity. He cared about Emma, who was slowly starting to smile again in therapy. He cared about his mother, whose burns were healing and whose spirit was recovering. He also made changes. He stepped back from some of his business responsibilities, putting trusted executives in charge so he could spend more time at home. He implemented new policies. Any potential romantic partner would be thoroughly vetted, and he would never again ignore the signs that something was wrong. Mrs. Rodriguez received a substantial raise and Collins's eternal gratitude. You saved my family, he told her. I can never repay that. Just be there for them, she replied. That's all the payment I need. 6 months later, Naomi Sterling was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Collins, Margaret, and Emma didn't attend the sentencing. They were at home, having dinner together, a real family meal, filled with laughter and love. Emma was seeing a therapist and slowly healing from the trauma. Margaret had recovered physically and was her vibrant self again. And Collins had learned the most important lesson of his life. No amount of money, no business deal, nothing in the world mattered more than the people he loved. That evening, as he tucked Emma into bed, she looked up at him with her mother's eyes. Daddy, Yes, sweetheart? I'm glad you came home early that day. Collins kissed her forehead. So am I, baby, so am I. He had caught the monster in his home, and his reaction, swift, decisive, and uncompromising, had changed everything. His family was safe, healing, and together, and Collins vowed that he would never again let anything threaten that. Some reactions don't shock because they're unexpected. They shock because they're exactly what justice demands.